What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the Vancouver Canucks. Yeah, things are not going well in Vancouver. There was that little period there around the holidays where, everybody kind of eased off of the Canucks and everything going on out there. Well, going into the new year, we are back on the train of going after the Canucks. And unfortunately, things have gone from bad to worse. So, the first thing that we have to talk about is kind of where everything started. And, I didn't watch the full game, but from what I've seen from enough clips and from what people have said about the JT Miller situation, we talk a lot about body language in the NHL. Like, you could tell, like, in Chicago, they're checked out already in Chicago. Taves and even Kane, they just look checked out. And if you look at Vancouver last week, JT Miller, at the end of the game, they're playing a game at home. Oh, no, they were on the road. They were playing a game, and Colin Delia is the goalie. And JT Miller comes back with the puck and is kind of like embarrassing his goaltender, telling him, like, go to the bench. What are you doing? Like beer league stuff, bush league stuff. And it was to the point where it was like a really embarrassing look for Colin Delia. And they've talked about Colin Delia. I mean, he is a very down-to-earth guy. He's like, he reads books on the plane. Like, this is a guy that is not going out of his way to, like, cause problems. Like, this is a guy that is in his own world, doing his own thing, like any goaltender would. And here's JT Miller giving him a hard time about not going to the bench. And I get it, you're in the moment, this and that, but you cannot show that stuff on the ice. Not to your opponent, not in front of the fans, or just out in public. That's stuff that goes on behind closed doors. And that's something that I think that is just an indicative of the lack of real veteran leadership in Vancouver. And let's be honest, if Ryan Kessler, Kevin Bieksa, the Sedin twins, Edler, any of those guys were there, Burroughs, you go down the list, this sort of thing would have never happened. And that's where the younger leaders like Elias Pettersson or Quinn Hughes or some of those guys, they're not going to go up to JT Miller, who's been in the league another 5 or 10 years longer than them, and saying, hold on, you shouldn't do that. You're just not going to see that. And they're not really the type of players to do something like that to begin with. So when I look at this whole situation, I mean, this is really just indicative of the lack of leadership in the room. And what we heard again here from Elliot Friedman, and they kind of make fun on the 32 Thoughts podcast. It's, all right, we have a new podcast, so what are we going to say about the Canucks? There's always something about the Canucks, right? And usually it's more bad than good. And he kind of said recently, the Vancouver Canucks locker room is shell-shocked from how this season has gone. And I think that really that first, 3 weeks of the season where they couldn't get a win, that just kind of just took any confidence and any sort of, good morality and good vibes on the team. It just threw it out the window. And I think that when you look at, there's a lot of younger players on this team. Yes, you have the JT Millers and some of those guys, but for the most part, this is a very young team with, like I said, Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, Andrei Kuzmenko, Vasily Podkolzin. There's a lot of younger guys on this team, and I just don't think the Canucks were expecting things to be so hard out of the gate. And I think that they're starting to realize just how disappointing things are going to be this year. We're at the halfway point of the season, and the Canucks are left for dead at this point. And I think that a new head coach coming in would make some semblance of sense. But they just extended Boudreau this past offseason. So that's kind of a tough pill to swallow. Then you're talking about trades and trying to make this team better. I mean, how do you make this team better before the deadline or before the offseason? It's kind of impossible. The best case scenario is they find a way to trade JT Miller at the deadline, but with potential locker cancer being on the mind. I'm sure teams are going to say, yeah, no, we'll pick anybody else but that guy. Oliver Ekman-Larsson's contract is basically a buyout. So unless a team wants to trade to acquire draft picks to buy him out next summer, he's going to end up getting bought out by the Canucks July 1st. And I think that the Canucks are just like, we're going to have to ride this out with the young guys and hope that we have enough money to keep Niels Höglander and Kuzmenko this summer, because that's really all we've got moving forward. So then we heard more news, and this is the one that really got people, it definitely turned people up to what was going on in Vancouver. So this is from Frank Saravelli, and he said that NHL insider Frank Saravelli says that the Canucks forward JT Miller has developed a reputation on the team for being a explicitive, and that explicitive is for being a prick. Miller's 7-year, $56 million extension does not begin until July 1st of 2023. So this is not really the stuff you want to be hearing about before his new extension even kicks in. And to make things even worse, and this is more of just, oh my goodness, like, can the Canucks ever catch a break? This is from Nick Kyprios. He said, he's not even sure JT Miller wanted to stay in Vancouver. He just couldn't get paid the way he did in Vancouver anywhere else. And that right there is the lack of competency from the new staff in Vancouver. This is all on their new group. You can't blame Jim Benning on this one. This is Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin bringing in JT Miller and signing him to this extension. Now, yes, Jim Benning did bring in JT Miller. Yes. He sold him out it was a first-round pick for JT Miller, and at the time it looked like Vancouver had bailed out the Tampa Bay Lightning, shedding Miller's salary cap to Vancouver, but it actually turned out Miller had a career season that next year in Vancouver and ultimately led to the extension that will be kicking in. Except this year, JT Miller is not playing anywhere near the level that he did then. And I think that a lot of people are a little bit frustrated with how things have kind of gone with him there. Now, the other interesting thing, and I think I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't mention that teams have been calling on Alexis Lafreniere, but the Rangers aren't actively shopping him, and that was from Pierre LeBrun. And I think that whenever you hear JT Miller, former New York Ranger, Alexis Lafreniere on the trade block. The other rumor, and I don't know if I could find it here, but apparently the Rangers were one of the teams that was, or the Canucks were one of the teams that were very interested in Alexis Lafreniere. And this is from Rick Dhaliwal from the Canucks. He said the Vancouver Canucks have expressed serious interest in Lafreniere. So again, take with that what you will, because if the Rangers aren't willing to trade him, it doesn't matter how much interest the Canucks really have in him. But I think that's something that we have to watch going into this trade deadline and into the summer, because, you know, I've already made a video talking about the Rangers might have some real big decisions to make this year in terms of, do they stick with their older core or do they go with the young guys? Because I think they can only hold out so much longer with keeping both, because the money's not going to be there. Like, yes, everybody was happy they re-signed Kreider and they signed Panarin and Zibanejad, but that does come at a price. And the price is you can't keep your younger guys and sign them to their 7-8 year deals. There's not enough room for everybody. So unless the Rangers can get Lafreniere and Kakko on bridge deals and Hedl, you know, the Rangers might be in a real situation where Lafreniere is available. So take with that what you will. We also heard some more news about Bo Horvat that I also wanted to mention before the end of this video. And, the Canucks plan on doing some buyouts this offseason. Again, that's from Rick Dhaliwal. Again, Tyler Myers, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Those are the names to keep on watch in that regard. And then, of course, the last thing, we have an update with Bo Horvat. And it's never a good one. But this is from Elliot Friedman. He said, Bo Horvat would definitely need to take less than he could get if he wants to stay in Vancouver. And then we've started to hear stuff recently that the Canucks are kind of blocking trades for Bo Horvat and kind of forcing him to sign an extension. At the end of the day, he's a UFA July 1st. So however much you want to block him out, there's only so much you can do there. So, again, not a great time to be in Vancouver. It really has been difficult for the Canucks for a long time now. And this is a team that is just in shambles, shell-shocked, whatever you want to say it is. You know, there's definitely some divide in the locker room. This team is just not where they want to be. And when teams aren't doing well, that's when you find out how good the group is. When they're winning and everything's going great, it's easy to like everybody and, you know, dap everybody up and handshakes and everybody's happy and this and that. But when you're losing and on those 8-10 game losing streaks, it really strains your locker room to see just how strong of a group you are. And we've started to see how things have worked out in Vancouver. Guys, that's it for today's video. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.